Hello, welcome to Betfair's T20 World Cup preview. I'm Tom Haylock, joined by Darren, Parkin. 20 teams, 4 groups. It's starting very soon, and I'm looking forward to dissecting it all with the great man, Darren. How are you, mate?
Going well, yeah. It's a quirky one. Obviously, we're playing in the West Indies, which is not uncommon, but co-hosting with the United States. And I know we've flagged it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but India, Pakistan in New York, that's going to be an amazing spectacle. I imagine that sold out in 5 minutes, and brings us to that age-old debate. I'd love it if India and Pakistan could play either a one-off test or a test series in Australia at the MCG. So maybe this is a bit of a forecast of that happening.
Yes, it's fascinating. And we've got it's broadcast on Amazon Prime as well. Have you signed up?
I have got Prime. It's a little bit better than, there's always debates around which streaming service. I think the A-League's on Paramount, for example, but at least with Prime, I think it's a little bit more mainstream in terms of getting some eyes on it. I
was going to ask you about that. So no Foxtel, no free-to-air. Is it going to... obviously, the timing's interesting as well because a lot of the matches are actually throughout the day Australia time, but is it going to dampen or diminish the awareness of the tournament?
A little bit, but it's probably the way of the future. I mean, I know a lot of people got rid of Foxtel and might have just been operating with KO, which is a streaming service anyway. The French Open tennis is on Stan as well as Channel 9, but most matches are on Stan. So I think it's just the way it is now that you're going to need all of these streaming services to watch these games.
That's in the lay bin. Someone will have to come up with the one size fits all, get all the streams together and package it up. So the way the tournament works, Darren, as I mentioned, 20 teams, 4 groups. The top 2 teams from each group go through to the Super 8s. The remaining 8 teams play each other. They're split into 2 groups themselves during the Super 8 phase and then play 3 matches against their rivals to determine the semi-finalists, and then we go into the finals. So the semi-finals played out between the top 2 teams from each Super 8s group, with the winners then progressing to the final in Barbados on June 29. Just some key matches that I'll focus on and I'll get you to touch on as well. So we're filming this Thursday, but in 2 days' time, Wednesday, we're 2 days' time on Friday, May 31, Australia play a key warm-up match. They're actually playing a match at the moment against Namibia, but they play against West Indies on May 31, which will be an interesting hit-out. Then we've got some key matches. Australia versus Oman. The series kicks off for Australia Thursday, June 6, 10:30 a.m. here, Darren, so that's a good time slot. We'll be glued to that. Then Australia-England is the big one. So we'll talk about the groups in a minute, but Australia are in a group with England. They play Sunday, June 9, and as you mentioned, India, Pakistan, I can't wait for that. That is sold out in minutes. That's on 9th of June as well. So what do you make of the tournament setup?
Yeah, if you look at Super 8s being the end goal, and then you break all of the 4 groups down, there are 2 sides that you would expect. You just dropped the new pill, but we've got it. We're all good. Each group has 2 sides that you would expect to go through, and then 3 sides that are an opportunity to upset them. For example, India and Pakistan are in a group, but then you've got Ireland, USA, Canada. So the expectation is that that Australia and England will get through, and the others won't. But one thing I like about this, it's kind of what the 50-over World Cup used to be. So the 50-over World Cup's kind of got rid of a lot of the minnow countries now, where they play qualifying matches, and then if they don't get through, they don't get through, and you're left with just the top echelon. But I really like seeing teams like this play. I mean, in the 50-over World Cup, Kenya made a semi-final in 2003, which can pop up and surprise. And we were discussing it a little bit in prep, that the shorter the games are, the greater chance of an upset. So if you've got a 5-day game, the chances of the lesser side sustaining momentum long enough to beat the top side, it's unlikely, and the top side's got enough time to recalibrate and fix it. But if you have a bad 15 minutes in a T20 match, let's say Australia were playing Oman and one of Oman's opening bowlers took 3 wickets in 8 balls, then Australia are in all sorts of trouble, and you don't really have time to recover. So it does lend itself to the potential for someone to sneak through.
I agree. More variance, shorter games, it makes complete sense. But also with the shorter format, key moments and who handles the pressure. We've seen some teams, South Africa come to mind, that have struggled in the big moments in the past. India as well have made you were saying they've got the highest winning strike rate.
So they've won 63% of their matches, which is the best winning rate of
is
any
that T20's
T20 World Cup matches.
World Cups, yep.
but they've only won the one title, which was the first one in 2007. So you compare that to the West Indies, who have won 50% of their matches. They're 19-19, but they've won the World Cup twice. So they've punched above their weight, the West Indies. But I would argue India, for the volume of matches won, would be disappointed not to have won the title in nearly 20 years.
Yeah, and they go into this World Cup as favourites. We'll touch on that. But you make a good point about the key moments. Australia, I don't know what their winning percentage is like, but they, throughout World Cup history, they just win.
Yeah.
They get the key moments right. We saw it in 1999 World Cup, what we did against India over there against 100,000 supporters, Travis Head making that brilliant 100. He stood up and Australia have stood up in the key moments in World Cup history.
They have. 99 in England's a classic example where they were really labouring their way through and then hit their straps and got it done. T20 World Cup, a couple of World Cups ago when they won it, they weren't expected to and swept through and got that done. In Dubai, they beat New Zealand in the final that time around. And then obviously the 50 over World Cup recently where India had been so dominant, had beaten everybody by 100 runs in each match. So Australia does have that reputation of being able to deliver when it matters most. And in terms of that winning percentage, so the Australians go at 62, so they're the second best strike rate behind India in the history of the comp.
Mirrors the overall market. So India at Betfair, India $3.55. You can lay them at $3.60. Australia $5, lay them at $5.10. And you've got England $7.20, South Africa $8.40, West Indies $10, New Zealand $13, Pakistan $14, and write your own ticket the rest.
A few points on that. So Pakistan made the final of the last World Cup and had their moments against England. Pakistan, very hard to catch. So you're like, well, are they going to be good or bad? When they're good, they're very hard to beat. And you always expect New Zealand will be around the mark. They're pretty consistent. So you probably don't mind them at the double figures.
Yeah, they just, I query New Zealand. They've probably snuck under the radar again, which they tend to do, but I just worry that they have the middle order. They can go at a high strike rate, and you look at the squads of each team. Their middle order, it's just, and we saw it in the IPL with record-breaking scores throughout the IPL. They're going at 270, 280, which is remarkable. I don't know if New Zealand can match that if it tends to play that. We're playing on smaller grounds. How do you think the conditions will pan out?
Yeah, you do get a bit of that in the West Indies where you get those really high-scoring games. But I think as much as we look at that, well, because of that, the key will be the ball, the ability of sides to pull that back. So the role of spin, obviously Zampa has been in terrific form. Mitchell Starc, I don't know if you saw the ball he bowled in the IPL.
That was one of the best.
Absolute cracker. So, yeah, I mean, broadly speaking in sport, I think titles are won by sides that defend the best.
Especially in the big moments.
Yeah, and I always think that bowling would be the cricket equivalent of defence. So, I think the side that nails that will be the one.
Who are you leaning towards from the overall market there?
I think overall I'd be looking at England, as much as it pains me to say it. I think their depth in this format, I mean, they built a lot of what they're trying to do in Test cricket around getting limited overs cricket right first.
Yep.
But I do like those two teams at a price. I just think New Zealand and Pakistan, 13s and 14s, I think if they're on, they'd be half that price. So.
It's interesting because we talk about the variance in short forms, but I think the market is very accurate. India's squad is sensational. I think they're the team to beat, whether they win it or not. And we did a show as well for the last World Cup, and India to make the final were in the 50 over World Cup, and they did it, and they obviously got beaten. I think they'll make the final, and $3.55 I think is value there. IPL, their middle order, they haven't got a weakness. They've gone for a spin-heavy squad as well, which I think with the slowing wickets later in the tournament, I think the wickets will get slower. I think the spinners will come to their fore. So that's an interesting one. Australia, $5. They just win World Cup ICC tournaments for fun. So they've got to be in the mix. What did you make of their squad selection? They left out Jake Fraser-McGurk. They have gone for the tried and tested that have done it before and the experienced. And it's an amazing bowling unit that have been there. All three formats just continue to turn up and do the job. That consistency's got to hold them in good stead.
Yeah, I mean, their fast bowlers are Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins, which is the test.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Those three have developed the skill set to play in all formats of the game, which you don't see anywhere else.
No.
Obviously, Indian fast bowlers play a bit of test cricket as well, but you don't see that.
No, I mean, England do it a bit with their bats, but not with their bowlers, where they branch over. But and then you've got the mix of experience. Obviously, Dave Warner's still in the squad. Matthew Wade's around. But then you've got guys like Tim David, who's been very good in the Big Bash. Players like Maxwell, who you know is a mainstay, dominated the 50-over World Cup as well. Mitch Marsh, the rejuvenated Mitch Marsh, is an experienced player in that team too. And then guys like Stoinis and Cam Green and those all-rounder options within the lineup. So I think that the balance is pretty good, as we've seen within the Australian squad. One I'll just quickly ask you about, if we're talking about winning strike rates, the side that has the second best winning strike rate across 50 and 20 over World Cups combined is South Africa, and they've never made a final in either format. So they're one who certainly missed more than one opportunity.
We touched on the 1999, obviously, World Cup. Their middle order, they're a dangerous team. So Klaassen will be one of the best middle order hitters in the world, if not the best at the moment. He's in sensational form, but they've got a very dangerous lineup. They just don't win it, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, we played them in the 50-over semi of the last World Cup, and they were favourites to win that, and I think they were 4 for 20 or something, and just bottled it at the start. They actually fought back pretty well with the ball and nearly beat us anyway. But, yeah, they just have little moments like that where they just don't take their chances. So.
Before we dissect the groups, I want to get your lay-bin. Are they cricket-related or general? What do you...
My lay-bin would probably be the criticism of these minnow nations. I think it actually adds a little bit to cricket. And if we want the game to get bigger and better, I think this is the best way to do it. Put Oman against Australia, not against another nation of a similar standard. I mean, Oman playing Namibia is one thing. Oman playing England and Australia teaches them plenty. So I like that. I'm not sure the groups are ideal, though, in the sense that you've got 4 groups with the 2 clear standouts and then the rest, whether it's less groups, so maybe it's 3 groups, 2 groups, something like that, as a way of sort of mixing it up a little bit. Yes. I think it's almost tailored now to get a particular 8 sides through.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but also it gives an opportunity for USA, Canada, whoever it might be, Namibia, Scotland, etc., to compete against teams that they are competitive against, and as you said, get some experience against the top echelon best 7 or 8 sides in the world. So it does give them a mix of experience and opportunity to win, and they can go home and say they won a World Cup match and whatnot. So I think it's a good setup. Let's have a look at, actually, I'll get to my lay-bins. Now, easy one for me, Australia-England, the biggest game of our tournament in the group stages, obviously starts at 3 a.m. That's never ideal, Darren.
No, it's not ideal. What time would that be in England, I wonder?
I was thinking that. Must
6 p.m. maybe?
Yeah, it must be a decent time for them, but not
it's like
us.
They've tailored it for them, but not us, which is unfortunate.
Also, the match between India and Pakistan, Darren, there's reports that resale tickets are going for $22,000. Get in the lay bin.
And I'd like to expand on that. When did scalping become legal? Because it looks like it is. It looks like it is now. But even in Australia, there's the Ticketmaster resale, which is 100% scalping.
They do it well.
Yeah, they've snuck that in. Yeah, they've snuck that in.
It's amazing. So $22,000 tickets. The $300 tickets sold at an incredibly fast rate, and then the tickets were selling up to $10,000, some of them, and then resale for $22,000, which is ridiculous. The match is going to be huge in New York. Nassau County International Cricket Stadium in Long Island. So that'll be a fascinating must-watch. I'll be getting up. That's early hours of the morning again, I think, that match. So I'll be getting up watching the highlights of the replay there.
Big appetite for it in America. They've got a 24-hour cricket pay TV channel called Willow, and I think that's because of the Indian-Pakistan population. So they'll get a big appetite for it, that's for sure.
That's huge. All right, let's have a look at the groups. Group A, India, Pakistan, Ireland, USA, and Canada. Interesting group, and I'll just get to the market here. So India, short price favourites to win this market, $1.35. Pakistan, $3.60 at Betfair. Again, you've got Ireland, $20, and write your own ticket for USA and Canada. Any surprises in this market?
Not really. Look, Ireland are always sort of dangerous in limited overs cricket, especially. They've beaten England and India in 50-over World Cups before.
It's amazing in itself.
Yeah, I mean, Pakistan, where you get value here is that the winner of the group is going to be the winner of the match between the top 2. So if India are $1.35 and Pakistan are $3.60, if you assume they beat everyone else, whoever wins the match between each other will get through. So if you think, would Pakistan be better than $3.60 head to head against India or not?
That's a great point. So no, they wouldn't be. I think it'd be $1.50.
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
I think they'd go in as firm favourites.
So that would create India as
you could lay India at $1.35 potentially in this market. Then I think they'll finish on top, and I think they'll win. But just in terms of playing the percentage in the market game, that's not a bad shout.
That's I think most of these groups, like the group with Australia England, whoever wins Australia England will top the group. So that's you kind of got to look at it like that.
Well, let's talk about that group. Group B: Australia, England, Namibia, Scotland, and Oman. Australia $1.87 at the moment. You'll probably get a little bit better than that. You might get $1.90, $1.95 on Australia to win that group. That's Group B. England $2.02 at the moment, as you mentioned. Namibia, Scotland, Oman, not giving much of a hope in the market. You'd think, just your point around India, Pakistan, and the odds when they play each other, you'd think that market's about right. Australia going into that match slight favourites against England.
Yeah, almost 50-50, but the whatever it turns out to be might depend how convincing they look in the match before that. But
which is a bit odd.
Probably about right.
We've got Oman Thursday, 6th of June, Australia, and then 3 days later we play England. You can't read too much into a game against Oman heading into an England match, can you?
No, you can't. The next two groups get interesting though, because there's potentially 3 teams in those groups that can get through.
Well, let's talk about it. Group C: West Indies, New Zealand, Afghanistan. This is the tightest group for mine. Then you've got Papua New Guinea and Uganda. West Indies $2.44, New Zealand $2.50, Afghanistan $3.80. Any surprises there? Anyone you keen to back or lay?
Look, Afghanistan were excellent in the 50-over World Cup. They lost a lot of close games, but could have got through on form. I think New Zealand, pound for pound, are the best side there. The West Indies respected for their record in the World Cup and the fact that they're at home. But on raw talent, I'd still say New Zealand are the best team there, so I'd like the 250. But it shows good respect for Afghanistan, I think, in the odds.
Yeah, West Indies are an interesting one because they're. You wouldn't be surprised if they lose to Afghanistan.
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas New Zealand just play the percentages and are probably going to be too good for the minnows and win easily. But I think West Indies have the biggest firepower out of these, so they're the team that can really cause some upsets. And if they do make it through to the group stage, which they seem more likely to do because the top two, I think they'll make it. Do you think they'll get ahead of New Zealand and Afghanistan in that group?
I've got New Zealand definitely going through, and then one of the West Indies or Afghanistan, probably the West Indies. But Afghanistan, they build a lot of their attack around spin. They might have 2, 3, 4 spinning options in each game, and depends on what sort of pitches get thrown up. But they're a bit of a unique bowling lineup and a unique side. So dangerous for mine. But look, I think it'll end up being New Zealand and the West Indies, but Afghanistan are certainly a chance.
Yeah, West Indies. They got Zara Joseph, who's very quick, and obviously the cult hero Shamar Joseph as well in the mix in their squad. But Nicholas Puran's airborne at the moment.
Yeah,
he's in superb form, and he can put sides away. We've got Dre Russ fit and firing as well. So they've got a very dangerous team for mine. Big watch on them. They're one of the big X factors in the tournament. We head to Group D now. South Africa, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Netherlands and Nepal. South Africa $1.67. Sri Lanka at the moment $4.20 odd. Bangladesh $5.50. You'd think South Africa win this group?
Probably. As minnow nations go, the Netherlands have won the most games of ever in World Cups of all of the nations that we would classify as minnows.
Is Tom Cooper still the highest of, obviously, Redback South Australia? And he played for the Renegades, the jacket you've got on. He was the highest World Cup run scorer for the Netherlands for a long time.
He was. And they had a batsman by the name of Ryan Ten-Doeschate who made a century against England in a World Cup and can certainly play. But, yeah, Tom Cooper, I think even was it Dirk Nannes played for Holland at one point. So, they've been well represented. And they're, I mean, if you look at the markets, they're $10, so they're rated better than most of the other minnow nations. But Sri Lanka are very young. They can be a good World Cup side, but their team's in transition to the side that we saw a decade ago with all those big names in it. They're quite young. And then Bangladesh, similar to what we mentioned about Afghanistan, they have a lot of spinning options in their side. they've probably been a little bit below their best in recent times based on capability. But look, I think South Africa will get through that, no worries. For them, the issue is probably a bit later on and how they handle those moments. So it's South Africa and then it's Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. So again, you might look at the head-to-head market in a Sri Lanka-Bangladesh game and just see how that looks.
Do you like Bangladesh at the price?
Probably. I think, Sri Lanka are quite young, and particularly with the bat, they're a little bit raw. So, I think Bangladesh would be every chance.
$5.50 in that series, Bangladesh, which is interesting. So I like that. Let's get to Australia's matches. So Thursday, 6th of June versus Oman, 10:30. We'll be watching that one. Not expecting that to be too much of a match. Australia will go into it as very firm favourites. Anything to mention in that match?
You'd probably look at top run scorer markets when they pop up in that, and look, it depends if Australia bats first or if they chase. But you would think that they're probably only going to drop a couple of wickets, so you'd be looking towards the top of the order and maybe something you can pinch around that.
I think that's really important, and we'll touch on the most runs and most wickets markets, because top order batsmen, as you mentioned, the way this series is with the four groups, few matches against the lesser known, lesser quality teams, the top order batsmen have got to hold a massive advantage in that most runs market. So we've got Australia playing Oman, as I mentioned, Thursday at 6, but then all eyes Sunday, 9th of June versus England there at 3 a.m. The dangerous team, England. Yeah,
they are, absolutely. Defending champions, of course, and have won the World Cup twice. And as we said, the Bazball test format was built on them winning World Cups in the limited overs arena, so they can be a very dynamic side, and we've got to respect their body of work. They are actually performing at a pretty high level in the limited overs space. Won the World Cup 2010 against us, and then 2022 against Pakistan at the MCG. So deserve to be one of the favourites.
Did they beat Australia on June 9?
I think the market's about right. I'd call it a genuine 50-50 game. Two of the best sides in the tournaments. Flip a coin, I'd say. Just
on the betting and betting at Betfair, you can actually put in prices and keep in play. Mm-hmm. So you can back the outsiders in some of these matches, and the odds fluctuate so much. You can press the keep and play button and have these going and sitting there throughout the match. So if there's an early wicket or the momentum shifts so quickly, you can often get matched and just trade that way throughout if you just tick the keep and play and whatnot. So you can take England at 2.10 potentially in that match and lay off $1.90. You'd think they'd fluctuate and get down to $1.90 at some stage in that match. So a very interesting way to bet there at Betfair and unique to Betfair as well. Match 3, Australia versus Namibia, Wednesday 12. Match 4 against Scotland on June 16. Both of those at 10:30. So Australia 10:30 starts here in Australia in Melbourne. And then the big game 3 a.m. So that's no good. Getting the lab in. Any surprises, Namibia, Scotland?
Not really. I mean, Australia, as I said, playing Namibia as we speak, and won that match by 7 wickets. They showed a little bit at times, Namibia. Scotland have been a bit of a feature around World Cups for a while. This is their 6th World Cup in the T20 arena, so you would hope they get a little bit better as they progress along. So a bit of talent there within the UK system. So, we'll keep an eye on them.
I think this is the big one. We'll head to the top tournament run scorer market and the top tournament wicket taker. So currently at Betfair, Virat Kohli, I think he made the most runs in the IPL, $7.40. He's clear favourite at the moment, ahead of Joss Buttler, $12. Travis Head, $13. He's made 3. He didn't play against the Namibia in the lead up, but his IPL, he was on fire early, and then his last 4 innings in the IPL, he made 3 ducks and a single-figure run. So he's coming off a World Cup, it's IPL where he dominated early, but his recent 4 matches, he's found the swinging ball. Stark got him in it with an absolute peach in one of those. He's $13. Jaswal, $13. Babar Azam, always in the mix, $14.50. Yadav, $14.50 as well. Rohit Sharma, top of the order for India there, $14. Phil Salt had a huge breakout IPL. He's come, and Australian cricket fans will know him well. He's played a bit of cricket for the Strikers. He's never really set the world on fire down here, but his IPL was enormous. He's $16. Mitch Marsh, $21. Warner, $18. Conway, $19. So who are you leaning to there, Darren?
Well, Mitch Marsh, obviously batting very high. He's 20s.
Where does he bat? 3?
he'll either open or bat 3.
You think Warner and Head will open?
Probably, but I think Marsh, there might be some of those matches against a Namibia or a Scotland, if they move things around, he would open. He's opened in the warm-up match, for example. Yep. So at $20, I don't mind him, given how high he'll bat in the order. Then you look at... So Richard Pant, we know he's had a difficult year or so, car accidents and recovering from injury and all of that type of stuff. So where's he going to bat in the Indian lineup? We've seen him destroy Australia in long-form cricket in the past. So he's 26s. So if he's fit and bats high enough, he could be a bit of a smoky, but I don't mind Mitch Marsh at the 20.
I just think you need to focus on openers here or top 3 for each team. And as I mentioned, the minnows. You also got to be wary that some players, more so bowlers, and we'll talk about the leading wickets, but they may get rested or play around with some squads against the minnows. So I'm more inclined to lay Virat Kohli, and that's scary because I think they'll go the whole tournament and make it to the final. So that's another thing to consider. And I'm focusing on Indian and Australian players in both these markets because of that reason. Travis Head interests me at $13. So I want to see, I'll hopefully see him in the next warm-up match as well. But his recent form has been outstanding outside the last couple. Rohit Sharma up the top of the order, and David Warner even at $18. He'll get an opportunity. He beats up on lesser teams. We've seen him in Test cricket.
What about Quinton de Kock?
Yeah, is he opening for South Africa, you think?
I think so, yeah. I think he made, in the 50-over format, he made either 3 or 4 centuries in that World Cup. We saw him play for the Renegades, struggled a bit in the BBL, but he could get going potentially. I mean, you look at it, if they play a minnow and they make 130 or 60 or something, then that's almost enough to put them right in the mix. So.
Great trading opportunity these as well, because you'll notice, and you just mentioned Australia batting Namibia, but they weren't chasing much in the lead up. So you might find that if you're bowling first and batting second, you actually don't have the opportunity to score a lot of runs against these minnows. You might be chasing 90, and the max you can actually score as a batsman is 40 or 50 against these minnows. So that's another really interesting consideration.
Yeah, you want them to bat first in those matches.
So that's just an interesting note, and obviously you don't have much of an impact, but you can trade off that potentially on these markets. So that's an interesting one. Let's head to the top tournament wicket taker here, and Jasprit Bumrah. He was superb. I think he took the 3rd most wickets in the IPL. He's back to his best. He's $9 favourite at the moment. Stark on fire. He bowled the ball of the tournament in the IPL, $12. Cummins $13.50, Zampa $13.50. So 3 of the top 4 Australian in that market. Then you got Siraj, Hazelwood $18. Chahal, Bolt, Afridi, Singh, Patel the next. I'm focusing on Patel here. I think the spinners have really come to the fore, especially late in the tournament. So $24 for me again with Axar Patel. I think that's a play, and I think he'll be shorter. I don't mind even Hazelwood if he opens the bowling. He'll bowl early. Stark obviously take a lot of wickets, and Bumrah is the obvious. So I don't think there's too much to play around, but Patel's the value for me.
Yeah, Bumrah is such an awkward action to face, you'd think, in T20 cricket. But
can you imagine Scotland players facing Bumrah?
Yeah, it'd be
Oman. It'd be
the
dangerous.
Old Sri Lankan quick Lasith Malinga, the slinging action that was so awkward. But I agree with you on spin. When T20 formed, a lot of people thought that spinners would really battle. I think they're the key these days. So Adam Zampa, very good World Cup player, $13.50. He's not a bad play. And
I'm a little bit nervous about Zampa.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. And that's my query with Australia's squad is their spin bowling options. If Zampa goes, which we've seen him go for runs recently, I know he's taken a lot of wickets and he's a brilliant white ball bowler. But if he goes, who do they turn to? Because you've got 4 top line bowlers, and then we've got to get overs from Maxwell. Travis Head might roll his arm over. And then we've got middle order, Stoinis if he plays, Mitch Marsh, Green. It's an interesting setup.
Yeah, Maxwell probably ends up being the spinner, which is...
He might open the bowling
exactly,
a couple of matches.
He's capable, but it's not ideal. He's not a front liner. But
India are talking about playing 4 spinners at times. So we've only got the 1 frontline spinner. That's the concern for me with Australia.
Then you look at like a Rashid Khan. We mentioned that Afghanistan and Bangladesh bowl a lot of spinners. So, can Zampa hold his own against the compared to the spin barrage that a lot of other sides are going to throw up. And look, interesting that Jofra Archer's in that mix there, been injured for so long. He's at 26s. So what does he look like for the Poms?
Have you got to play? You got to play there?
Shaheen Afridi's a pretty good player. I think he'd be a chance. But yeah, I'm sticking with Zampa because he'll bowl all of the spinning overs. So there might be a decent chance if he, as you say, he can go for runs. But yeah, I think his body will work. I'm confident he'll hit back.
He's a pretty safe choice.
Yeah.
Because you know he's going to bowl 4 overs every match basically, and you think Australia are going to make it deep into the tournament. So he gets his opportunity to take a lot of wickets. What else we got, Darren? You got any best bets? You got any?
Just looking at the reach the final markets. So South Africa 4th favourite to make the final. They're capable, but it's one of those things that, I mean, I barrack for the Saints in the AFL, so you worry about the weight of history sometimes.
Poor man.
So sometimes I think history it shouldn't mean something, but it does. So
do you address it with the team? If you're coaching South Africa, do you address that issue and recent?
I think if it's an elephant in the room, you probably have to, in a way.
Learn from it?
Yeah.
Sometimes opening up and talking about it.
Just ask them and just say, look, what do you think? Are you thinking about it before a game? How does it work? I mean, in the AFL example, I used to hate it, like when St Kilda made grand finals in 2009 and 10, and they'd roll out all of the old premiership players from the 60s. My attitude was always like, no, keep that away, because that's putting pressure on them and saying it's been so long and this is what it means. But South Africa 375, 4th favourite to make the final. I'd be tempted to lay that on the evidence of history. And then you look at New Zealand 5, West Indies 5, Pakistan 580. I'd be more inclined to roll the dice on that and lay South Africa to make the final.
I'm sticking with my guns here. I think India will make the final, and I'm happy to take over $2, which they currently are at Betfair. So India favourites there, Australia 250 odd, England 295, South Africa 375, West Indies 5, New Zealand 5. So I think India will make the final, and I'm happy to take anything over $2 for them to do it. I think it's a great bet. That's my best bet of the tournament.
Yep, I think it's hard to argue with that. They're going to be a very tricky side to beat, that's for sure.
What's your best lay for the tournament, Darren?
So my probably leaning towards England at the 294. I think if we consider Australia and England to be 50-50 in most aspects, Australia 248, England 294. So England are a little bit better value, and then laying South Africa to reach the final for mine. So this is the making the final market for the Australia and England 248, 294.
Backing them both, or
backing England and laying South Africa.
Backing England, laying South Africa. Your bets of the tournament. Anything else?
No, I'm coming around to that Mitch Marsh $20 top tournament run scorer market. I think that's a good price for someone that's going to face a lot of balls in the tournament.
Under an injury cloud at the moment, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah. He in this lead-up match that he
got
just
run
played.
Out, so hopefully he didn't
got run out for 18 off about 12, but was looking pretty good before that. So hopefully that's a bit of a sign of what's to come.
Darren, thank you for joining us. Head to betfair.com.au and download the app for all things T20 Cricket World Cup. I can't wait for it. Starts soon. Darren, been a pleasure, mates. Good luck. Go well. Go Australia.
Enjoy it.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.